Good evening from sacred space at Titania's realm. You've arrived on a very special evening, one of Mama T's epic meltdowns, breakdowns, recalibrations, discombobulations, and then knitting it all back together quite magically. I don't know how I do it. I think it's old age. Old age made me very brought back a reasonable amount of equanimity anyway. I've had a day. I went out and bought a new iPhone, which would be terribly exciting and thrilling, except the nice young man at Optus at Carindale was very lovely to me. I said, I'm not technologically savvy anymore. I've lost it. I don't know what I'm doing. I struggle. So he sat there in the shop with me, and he set up my phone and my new Apple Watch. You want to see my new Apple Watch? I haven't worn a watch for 25 years, but somehow they convinced me to buy a watch because it is a good buy. I'm going to love it. I'm going to get addicted to it, but I could have lived without it. You know what I mean? But anyway, it was a good buy. No regrets. No buyer's regret there. But there's my new little Apple Watch. And but the problem was, I paired it to the old SIM, and then I couldn't get my phone to work. I couldn't understand why my phone wouldn't work. Same thing happened last time I got a new iPhone. I even rang up their help, the Optus help desk. Spent ages. Neither of us worked out that stupidly I hadn't put the new SIM in, right? Because the phone was working fine. Miraculous. I don't understand it, because the young man in the shop I said, it must work so I can call, make immediate phone calls, because I've got sewage exploding everywhere at my house. I've had to run away to get a new phone because I couldn't call housing to tell them that there was a sewage problem. I had to email them and hope that they got my email, and to get to email them I had to search for the housing department phone number and email address. I used to have a card with all those details. I don't know where that went. It's all very frustrating. So then I emailed them, but I didn't know if they'd got my email because they were here 4 days ago. They didn't get my email for 24 hours. It's all bollocks, quite frankly. So anyway, in freak out mode, I can't make any calls on my phone. What am I going to do? I need a new phone. I've had problems with my phone for about 12 months now, and it wasn't even quite paid off. I still had $120 to pay off in it. Can you believe it? It broke down before I even paid it off. But look, it lasted almost, the contract was for 36 months, so it lasted 35 months. That's not too bad for a phone. So I'm not really upset about that per se. It's just frustrating that I haven't paid something off and it's broken down on me. It's just a matter of, it's planned obsolescence. But anyway, so I went down to Optus, said I must have a phone, I can't call anyone, and I can't live without my phone, which is Miss Tough as old boots was going to go off grid only not so long ago, and I was going to be non-contactable to anyone, and I was just going to live the dream of a hobbit, undercover under a hill somewhere and quietly moulder away. No, it turns out I need you other humans more than I care to admit. Terrifying feckin' thought that is. So anyway, the nice young man set up my phone so I could use it when I got home, but then I didn't realise I hadn't put the new SIM in. And then when I put the new SIM in, the bloody iPhone, Apple Watch had paired to the old phone, and now I can't make calls on it. Nothing works because I unpaired it. Nothing works, but the old phone works since I put the old SIM back in it and got it up and running again, which is nice, but I don't want the old phone to work. I'll actually try to erase everything, which is where everything went wrong, I think. So I've got to wait till Rati leaves at midday tomorrow, and then I'll be off to see the nice young man again at Optus and say, look, I know I'm old and I'm stupid and you set it up so kindly for me, but between getting home and redoing everything, I've stuffed up and we're going to need to sort this issue out. However, my new phone makes videos now because I've got lots of storage now, because I said to him I must have enough storage because it's the storage problems that created this problem 12 months. He said, yes, that's what went wrong. So I have enough storage to make videos on my iPhone, which means I'm crisp and in focus. No more glamour shots, boys, being all out of focus and looking a bit fey and looking shocking. Now you see every wrinkle and every bit of pimple and every bit of florid flush. And well, what can I say? It's authenticity at Sacred Space, Titania's realm. So anyway, in the middle of the struggle for setting my phone, which only just stopped not even a few hours ago, about an hour ago, because I gave up, realised I really am going to have to go and see them tomorrow. Just a pain in my ass because I was trying to resolve it myself. And it went round and round and round, but I spent the last hour or so downloading Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, because they're my main connectivity with the outside world, isn't it? I drive you all nuts on social media. Some of you like it, some of you like just switch me off. It's all good though, you know, I get it. I'd like to switch myself off permanently sometimes, but I can't because the gods won't let me, and I've just got to soldier on. But there was a bit of a meltdown with the help technician guy, and I said, I'm having a breakdown. It's going round and round in circles. And you know what? He was as silly as I. All he had to say was, did you put your new SIM in? And then we could have reset it up with the new SIM. But anyway, didn't work. Didn't like my SIM. Won't let me make phone calls. Won't let me receive phone calls. Won't let me message anyone. So, brand new phone, I got the same situation this evening that I started off with this morning, except I now have apps. I have the Apple apps on my phone. So it's progress. Had to fight to get all those re-downloaded, and oh dear God, it's just madness, isn't it? It's just madness. But anyway. Oh yes, where was I going with that? Yes, so quite late in the afternoon, very late, almost on dusk, a plumber arrived. Thinking, what are you coming in the dark for? What are you going to do in the dark? But he was a very nice man. And so he set to work to clear the blocked sewer. And I said to him, you know, I got the blame for all these, you know, period products and baby wipes. And I said, they're not mine. But I don't understand how I'm getting other people's sewage in my pipeline, because it's not logical. So anyway, he went and worked on it, and then he came and reported to me about, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours later. It's quite late, it was about 7 o'clock. He said, it's a Brisbane City Council job. He said, the reason you're getting shit and effluent and products is you're getting from all the other houses uphill from you. What I said? And it's hyenas. He said, yes, he said, because there's tree roots. And he said, I've cleared it. He said, the bloke on Sunday cleared it a bit, but he said, he didn't think to put the camera down, did he? No. He said, I've taken a photograph. He showed me the photograph. He said, I've made a hole in it, but I'm not confident that it won't get blocked up again in a few days' time. He said, I'm going to ring Brisbane City Council and organise with them. So he did ring them, and he reported to me. They said it could take 20 days. I said, I can't wait 20 days floating in other people's effluent. He said, no, here's the reference number. If in a day or two you get another leak, just call the council direct, and here's the reference number, and tell them housing isn't responsible for that. We've come twice, and it's not our it's not our pipeline. And he said, you're getting from about 4 or 5 homes all up the hill from you. So it's washing downhill in a direct line. He showed me where the the manhole. And I said, yes, that's blown off before I actually watched it happen. He's just looking at me. So, sacred space, getting ever more fucking sacred, isn't it? So he said, well, I drew a little blue arrow to show that it's in a direct line with a manhole and where it is, and you won't see the arrow tomorrow, but there's a little bit left on that green leaves, he says. And he said, I tried to clean up some of the shit for you, which was kind because the other plumber didn't do anything. I said, it's very kind of you, given it's dark and it's cold and you're, out here sorting everything out. So look, there's 2 lovely things that have happened today, but are not quite resolved. My new phone that I now have to go back down and get them to hook me back up to the network, and so I can make calls. And and the sewerage, which has had 2 men come out to work on it, but is now actually going to need major works from Brisbane City Council. Here's looking at you, BCC. So 20 days. 20 days. I hope it doesn't take 20 days, because I'll be screaming if it takes more than a week or 2. Trust me on that one. There will be full-blown Bodosian wars happening. But there's not much I can do except ring up every day and scream down the phone, where are you, where are you, where are you? At which point they'll just ignore me because they've decided I'm crazy. But, it's not sanitary living with the whole neighbourhood shit all floating into my pipeline. Well, the old saying, when shit happens, it happens exponentially. But I didn't think it would literally happen. It's been good for a few years. This man said, how long has it been good for? I said, about 6 years. He said, yeah. He said, well, the council will clear all the tree roots out. He said, and then you'll find 6 years they'll have all grown back and you're back to square one again. He's right, 22 years of this nightmare I've had with the plumbing, with the sewerage. But anyway, on another subterranean depth, on another level, I thought I'd read a lovely book with lots of lovely pictures and poetry and something lovely to think about, because life must be, a balance and equilibrium between the ick factor and loveliness. And so we're going to read, I'm going to read to you, people of Earth and mermaids and other interdimensional entities, an anthology of verse and prose. Right, let us begin. Here's a lovely portrait of some mermaids climbing onto someone's boat or barge, or not quite sure what they've got going on there. But anyway, it is what it is, people of Earth. It's all very sticky, guys. It's sticky. It's a brand new book. It's hardly even been read. I don't actually think I've read this one, to be honest. I must have bought it, or somebody gifted it to me and it got shoveled straight in my library. Sometimes I collect things and I just cherish them and hoard them, and then 20 years later I was like, oh, I'm going to use that thing now. Not often, because I don't believe in, not using or utilising things that you buy. I find that wastage, but sometimes things get forgotten, tucked aside, and this might be one of them. Here's another mermaid. She looks like she's being attacked by those seagulls. They don't look very friendly to her at all. And here's more of a water nymph coming up from a river. Maidens of mystery, love and pain. Pretty much the same thing, isn't it, when you fall in love, especially when you fall in love with feckless, false assholes. But we're trying to remember lovely things and remove the ick factor off from us. Slough it off like an old skin. Right, Lorelei. Down the green waters came the boatsman's frail craft, ever drawing nearer to the perilous rock. All his care and all his skill were required to avert a very visible danger. But high above him, from the rock round which the swirling eddies splashed and foamed, there came a voice. I don't hear anything. Shh. Her voice was like the voice the stars had when they sang together. Oh, that's sweet, isn't it? And when the boatman looked up at the sound of such sweet music, he beheld a maiden more fair than any he had ever dreamed of. On the rock she sat, combing her long golden hair with a comb of red gold. Her limbs were white as foam, and her eyes green like the emerald green of the rushing river. And her red lips smiled on him, and her arms were held out to him in welcome, and the sound of her song thrilled through the heart of him who listened, and her eyes drew his soul to her arms. Be careful, boys. Those eyes will get you every time. Forgotten was all peril. The rushing stream seized the little boat and did with it as it willed. And while the boatman still gazed upwards, intoxicated by her matchless beauty and the magic of her voice, I'm laughing. I once won a competition on Pal Talk for the sexiest voice. I think they were taking the piss out of me, actually. They often were quite mean, but I won first prize. I said, oh, really? I never win anything. How did I win first prize? Even the woman said, no, you have a beautiful voice, psychedelic dreamer. We all think so. I think they were all winding me up. But regardless, I can't do anything about my voice, can I? Just carry on using my magical voice and refusing to be silenced. His boat was swept against the rock, and with the jar and crash, knowledge came back to him, and he heard with broken heart the mocking laughter of the Lorelei as he was dragged down as if by 1,000 icy hands, and, with a choking sigh, surrendered his life to the pitiless river. Jean Lang, A Book of Myths. Yes, well, we've read before, we've explained to you before about the Lorelei, did we not? That's when I had the gnosis that I was dragging up truth from the bowels of my own denial. How was I rewarded? With cruelty. So love her babies. The mummy will have her truth until the day she dies, and when she wakes up to herself and realises that it's all been a bit of a sordid, cruel little game, naturally she grieves and gets furiously angry and wrathful, but then she gets over it, because, you know, there's beautiful people out in the world. I met two today, two men that were both beautiful men. That nice man that was the plumber, and the nice young man. He looked Lebanese, by the way, but I'm not racist, don't get me wrong, but he looked like he came from Lebanon. And the nice young Asian Australian man that helped me with my phone, helped me get home and have connectivity long enough to, you know, follow up with housing and tell my friend Lynn that I'd bought a new phone and how terrified I am of new technology and how it's going to, you know, be a struggle for a few days, and here we are. soldiering on. But once I get the hang of it, I'll be driving that bus quite admirably, babies. Right. Oh, there was an elderly couple came, as customers to Optus while I was sitting there. And the older lady, she was a bit older than me, probably 10, 15 years older, and she had a mask on. I can't stand people wearing masks post-COVIDian epoch. But of course I wasn't nasty to anything. I was just quietly thinking to myself, oh dear goddess, oh dear goddess. Anyway, she sat at the table near me, and her husband, who was older than her and looked quite frail and elderly, was sitting outside the shop looking grumpy. She says to me, doesn't he look grumpy? And I kind of nodded. And then I said to the young man, I said, I don't care. I said, I'm single, I'm free, and I'm happy in my own weird ways. And he giggled too. And the older lady heard me, and I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm such a bitch. I said, but you don't know. I said, I often look around and see, couples, and I think, I'm so glad I'm free. I really am. Sometimes I get lonely and a bit fraught and frantic and think I should be out there fecklessly joining in the fuckery and finding a lover, and then I think, what for? You get older, you sit there with a mask on your face and an old man pissed off with you for she was clearly trying to sort out her phone, and she's looking at me. And then she said the most sweetest, kindest thing. She said, you got the most delightful giggle. I didn't know if I met him, but I was laughing about planned obsolescence and technology and that I'm old and I'm not coping with all this. And she joined in laughing because we're in the same boat, aren't we, being similar vintage. And then she said, you have the most delightful giggle. And then I just looked at her with her mask and I just thought, oh dear goddess. But anyway, of course I'm not going to be cruel. I don't like being cruel to people. There's no need for that behaviour. So I just said to her, oh, thank you so much for saying so, and giggled again. And I said, life is short. I said, I make it a point to be happy. And even the young man looked at me that was serving me and went, so it was actually quite a lovely experience, given that I was freaking out about being in debt for 3 years, paying off a phone that hopefully won't die on me this time like the last one did. But anyway, it is what it is, people are there. Here's another mermaid for you. I wonder if mermaids giggle. I know they sing. They sing men to their deaths. But do they giggle? Perhaps. Here is a piece of prose by Netta Siret, a sea child. He knew that he was being watched. It was not at all a frightening sensation, but one that made him intensely curious. He looked right and left and up towards the dim roof and down upon the yellow floor, and then, all at once, glanced quickly towards the opposite wall of the cavern. 2 big eyes, clear and green as sea waves, were peering down at him from behind an overhanging ledge of rock. Val jumped up, startled certainly, but not frightened. The eyes had disappeared, but he stood still on the floor of the cave with his hands in his pockets and called, "Who's up there? Come out, I won't hurt you," he said, as valiantly as though he had been 14 instead of 4 feet high. Shorter than me, by the gods. There was no reply at first, but just as he was wondering whether he could climb up the face of the rock and look over, a little head slowly rose above the ledge, and then a pair of slender white shoulders, till half the body of a little girl was visible. Was it a little girl? Val standing open-mouthed below, thought her, at any rate, the strangest he had ever seen. She had long hair from which the water dripped, hanging straight on either side of her little face, but it was green hair, something like the seaweed which clothed the rock, only finer and prettier. Her eyes were green too, but clear, translucent green, like the sea where it is very deep and still. She had a tiny wistful face, white and childish, and a pretty mouth whose lips were only faintly touched with pink. "I say," cried Val, when he had a little recovered from his astonishment, "I am so glad you're here. Come down, I want to talk to you." I can't," said the little girl plaintively, and her voice was like the murmuring of the waves outside. "Why not? I'll help you," Val declared. "Put one foot on the ledge and the other—" "I haven't any feet," she interrupted, and 2 tears slowly gathered in her eyes. "Oh, I say, you know," began Val dubiously. "How did you get up there then?" I swam in when the tide was high and I was playing on the ledge, and the sea went away and left me here," she answered in a mournful voice. Val gasped. "Are you a mermaid?" he asked breathlessly. It seemed too good to be true. Yes," sobbed the poor little sea child. "I have a fish's tail." She dragged herself closer to the ledge, and Val saw that her tiny body ended in a curved and tapering tail. "How jolly!" he murmured with admiration. I have a story about that, a true story, actually happened during my childhood, about fishes getting caught in a spring tide. So where I lived on the seashore. Houses were directly, it was called the Esplanade, and we lived directly across the road from the beach. So it was my saving grace as a child, actually, having that level of freedom and the beach and the sea and little rock pools and catching little fishes in my bare hands and putting them back and scraping limpets off the rocks and smashing them, which was a bit cruel actually, but I'd use them as bait for fishing and, you know, running up and down, up and down, up and down. We children were always up and down that beach. And the Catholic boys down the road, you know, there was 4 boys and 1 girl, and they were a Catholic family, and the boys were much older than their little sister, was a year younger than I, and they were a fair bit older. They were always playing cricket or, I don't know, I think it was cricket on the beach as well. It's a very rocky terrain from my house. It was all stones, but if you walked about 2 or 3 kilometres down, it was a sandy beach. But anyway, those boys, look, we all ran completely wild. If it weren't for my actual family of origin, it would have been a wonderful, idyllic childhood. But nothing's perfect in some people's lives, and mine was far from perfect. It's probably why I'm a bit of a perfectionist to this day, overcompensating for all the shit fuckery that went wrong, am I right? So anyway, but I digress. So down the road was the Catholic family, and their name was Hodemakers. The father was Dutch, and he was a very, very strict, devout Catholic. used to take me, who in my childhood was a little Lutheran Protestant girl, used to go with his entire family sometimes for midnight mass at Christmas, or various, not very often, but on a few occasions I got dragged to the Catholic Church with them. My mother probably thought it would be a good education for me to learn about, other religions. My mother, in that respect, was a wonderful mother. She was broad-minded and spiritual. She was actually an occultist and a witch, but apart from that, she was very broad-minded about religiosity and spirituality and ritual and practice and thought, and that's the only thing she and I still have in common, actually. So so there was the Catholic family down the road, Mr. Hodemaker's, and his English, she was from the East End of London. She was a Cockney. His English wife and their 5 kids, they were broke that week, and it was just before Easter. Easter was coming up. And then there was the next family, down the road that I was practically raised by and was very close to, were the Robertsons. And they were broke that week also. And then there was our family, and we were broke. And Mr. Hodemaker's told me that they had all been praying for a miracle, that some miracle would come, that they'd have enough food come in to help feed everyone at Easter, especially him with 5 children and a wife. It was a lot. And Mr. Robertson had told me he too wasn't much of a believer in religion, but he said, I've done a few prayers this week too, Tanya. And anyway, so the magical, beautiful thing that happened wasn't magic, it was science, exactly just as what happened to this mermaid was. So Lynn Robertson and Rosalind Hodemakers and I, us 3 little girls, we were, rollicking down the beach this particular afternoon. It was a beautiful day. I can still almost smell it and sense it, and as if it was so fresh in my mind. And we were walking over these rocky outcrops, near where we lived. And we came upon this pool, and it was full, and it was not normally ever full up with water. Often had bit of water in it, but this particular day, it was full of water, and it was turgid and churning with fish. So many fish. And I looked at Rosalind and looked at Lynn. Lynn was older than us. She was 4 years older. Rosalind was a year younger than I. So I was about 7 when this happened. So Rosalind was about 6, and Lynn would have been about 11. And I turned to Lynn, I said, we better go and get our fathers. She says, why, Tanya? I said, there's a lot of fish in that pool. A lot. I don't eat fish, but they do. My father loves fish and seafood. And I said, we better get them to bring some buckets down, catch all these fish. So we ran, all 3 of us, we ran to our different fathers. I think it was a Sunday afternoon. Anyway, sure enough, within 5 minutes, all 3 fathers came running, I think with another man from down the road too. And they all came and they all brought buckets, and they were hauling up mackerel. I didn't know what kind of fish they were, but my dad said they were mackerel. Hauling them up, and they were quite large fish too. And my father said, how did you know that was there, Tanya? I said, we didn't, we just stumbled across this, us kids, doing our usual tripsing over the rocks, looking for mermaids and whales and all sorts of interesting things. Whales did indeed traverse in front of it was like a playground for the whales in summer. It was beautiful. The inter-island ferry would cross twice a day, and the whales would cross too in the summer months. So anyway, my dad, Mr. Hodemakers, Mr. Robertson, and some other gentleman, I can't remember who he was actually, I think he might have been Hugh down the road's dad, but anyway, it doesn't matter who it was, does it? Anyway, those 3 that I remember. came, they were hauling up buckets, and my dad was like, my God, there's so much fish, there's so much fish. And Mr. Hodemakers was like, I have been praying for a miracle. And he looks at Rosalind and Lynn and I, and says, you girls, you've created a miracle. I said, we didn't do it. He goes, I know, but it's just, I'm so happy that you found them. So we couldn't quite work out what had happened, but then my dad said it was a spring tide. It had rushed over the rocks and then receded, and the fish were trapped in that rocky pool, couldn't get out, and it was literally churning. They were trying to get out, the poor things. So I really feel for this mermaid, because I can imagine how frightening it must be to be launched out of the open sea into a tiny pool and then be dragged out by bucketfuls to be feasted on by very hungry, impoverished humans who thought it was a miracle. Miracle for us humans, but not so good for the fish, if you ask me. But I didn't eat any of them because I don't eat fish. I do sometimes, like I'll have cod and chips, or, you know, barramundi and chips, or in New Zealand I used to like terakihi and chips. But I don't eat fish very often. I'm not fond of fish. It's not my favourite food. Every now and then I might crave some fish and chips, but it's, you know, very, very rare now. Used to eat it a lot back in the day. But when we were children, we used to eat it on newspaper. We'd put it on the floor on newspaper, and the whole family would come. We'd eat off the floor, the fish and chips. Bit bogan, I know, but, you know, it's what we used to do. It was the done thing in the 70s. We would pitch in. But anyway, but I'm still very amused by Theo Hodemakers, thinking that we little girls had created a miracle, and he'd been praying, and, you know, the good Lord, or in his case Jesus and Mary, answered his prayers, or the Holy Spirit, or however they frame it. But anyway, it was quite amazing. And then my dad had so much mackerel in the fridge, and my mother would open the fridge because she hated fish too, and she'd go, eat it, ach du lieber Gott. But Dad had it. He had it for breakfast and lunch and tea for weeks. He fed off those fish. He really enjoyed that, and it did help with the finances because, well, we didn't eat it, but it was less needing food, you know, to provide for him. So the Hodemakers were thrilled because they all loved seafood, and, you know, the Robertsons were thrilled, and the other man that came along and grabbed fish was thrilled. That little pond, that little rock pool fed 4 or 5 families. So we continue reading, people of Earth. From Edward Spencer, The Fairy Queen. Haha. I'm laughing because the portrait is of very chubby looking mermaids. And I like it when mermaids are a little bit chubby, only because I'm a bit chubby myself and don't feel quite so left out from all the skinny people around me. When I see other chubby ones, I'm like, someone that enjoys their food and isn't poisoning themselves with Ozempic, for example, which I would never, ever have gone along with anyway. Yes, I can be a bit, you know, schadenfreudig about that, because it's awful. It's awful seeing my favourite actors and celebrities half emaciated from that poison. But, you know, nobody listens to me. If I tell them, don't do that, guy friend or girlfriend, it's not going to be good for you, they go and do it anyway. So what can I say? It's like, meanwhile, I can't even set up an iPhone without dramas, so I'm not doing so well after all, so don't worry. No one gets through life unscathed. Right, where were we? They were fair ladies till they fondly strived with the Heliconian maids for mastery, of whom they, overcomen, were deprived of their proud beauty, and the one moiety transformed to fish for their bold circuitry. Circuitry, there's a word I don't know. We can't Google it because I'm on my iPhone. That's the only thing about making videos on my iPhone. I can't Google and video at the same time. Oops. Surquidry. Surquedry. Google it yourself. But the upper half their hue retained still, and their sweet skill and wanted, W-O-N-T-E-D, as in wanted melody, whichever after they abused to ill, to allure weak travellers, whom gotten they did kill. I don't think all mermaids are out to kill us, though. I really don't. I just think, like any fairy folk, they can tell if you're a good person and a bad person, and maybe they kill you by accident. Could be that too. But I think most of the interdimensionals are fairly good judges of humans. And I don't think they're all out to kill you, but maybe I'm in denial, you know. I come from a species that are constantly trying to kill each other. So who are we to judge anyway? Seriously. But on a happy note, this is anonymous. The Mermaid. On Friday morn when we set sail and our ship not far from land, we there did espy a pretty fair maid, with a comb and a glass in her hand, while the raging seas did roar and the stormy winds did blow, and we, jolly sailor boys, were all up aloft, and the landlubbers lying down below. It's a shame about me not having, glamour shots on my laptop, because now you see all the wrinkles. Oh, the mummy got the wrinkles. Well, she's 60 years old. It's going to happen, people of Earth. It's going to happen to us all. I quite like that one. She's sitting on a very large fish, brushing her hair in what looks like quite stormy weather. Oh, I miss the sea. I really miss it, but what can I say? Now the sea comes to me by rivers of shit flowing downhill from the neighbourhood. Explains why there was so much sanitary stuff and blood. Cleared the drain on Sunday. This man confirmed. He said, yeah, it's not yours, it's coming from other households. Lots of other households. Creepy, isn't it? Really creepy. But what can you do? What can you do? Every evening he went out upon the sea. Oh, this is written by Oscar Wilde, The Fisherman and His Soul. Let me start that again. Every evening he went out upon the sea, and one evening the net was so heavy that hardly could he draw it into the boat. And he laughed and said to himself, surely I have caught all the fish that swim, or snared some dull monster that will be a marvel to men, or something of horror that the great queen will desire. And putting forth all his strength, he tugged at the coarse ropes till lines of blue enamel round a vase of bronze, the long veins rose up on his arms. He tugged at the thin ropes, and nearer came the circle of flat corks, and the net rose at last to the top of the water. But no fish at all was in it, nor any monster or thing of horror. But only a little mermaid lying fast asleep. Her hair was as a wet fleece of gold, and each separate hair is a thread of fine gold in a cup of glass. Her body was as white ivory and her tail was of silver and pearl. Silver and pearl was her tail, and the green weeds of the sea coiled round it, and like seashells were her ears and her lips. Excuse me. Her lips were like sea coral. That was just random, wasn't it? The cold waves dashed over her cold breasts, and the salt glistened upon her eyelids. So beautiful was she that when the young fisherman saw her, he was filled with wonder, and he put out his hand and drew the net close to him, and, leaning over the side, he clasped her in his arms. And when he touched her, she gave a cry like a startled seagull, and woke, and looked at him in terror with her mauve amethyst eyes, and struggled that she might escape. But he held her tightly to him and would not suffer her to depart. Not cool, people of Earth. Not cool. That's a beautiful one, isn't it? It does look beautiful. By Andrew Lang, The Girlfish. Didn't I say that fish would be delicious, she cried, and plunging her spoon into the dish, the girl helped herself to a large piece. But the instant it touched her mouth, a cold shiver ran through her. Her head seemed to flatten, and her eyes to look oddly round the corners. Her legs and her arms were stuck to her sides, and she gasped wildly for breath. With a mighty bound, she sprang through the window and fell into the river, where she soon felt better and was able to swim to the sea, which was close by. No sooner had she arrived there than the sight of her sad face attracted the notice of some of the other fishes, and they pressed around her, begging her to tell them her story. "I am not a fish at all," said the newcomer, swallowing a great deal of salt water as she spoke, "for you cannot learn how to be a proper fish all in a moment. I am not a fish at all, but a girl. At least I was a girl a few moments ago. Only," and she ducked her head under the waves so that they should not see her crying. Trying to get it to focus. Right, here we have very interesting drawing of mermaids. It's quite sinister, that one there, doesn't he? It's got eels swimming around his head. She's got a very long tail. Very long tail, very long body. The Maid of the Sea by James Hogg. Come from the sea, maiden to me, maiden of mystery, love and pain. Wake from thy sleep, low in the deep, over thy green waves, sport again. Come to this sequestered spot, love, death's where thou art, as where thou art not, love. Then come unto me, maid of the sea, arise from the wild and stormy main, wake from thy sleep, calm in the deep, over thy green waves, sport again. Must be a terrible thing to lose the sea when you're a mermaid. Some of them have sacrificed their freedom for the love of a prince. Are we right? The Copenhagen mermaid had to give up her voice as well. Didn't go well for her in the end. Never does when you give up your voice, people of Earth, and your freedom. Right. George A. Birmingham, The Mermaid. It was calm enough that night Anthony O'Flaherty was here, and there was a moon shining pretty near a full moon, so Arthur could see plain. Well, there were 3 of them in it, and they were playing among themselves. Mermaids? This time my voice expressed full sympathy. The sea all round us was rising in queer, round little waves, though there was no wind. The boom snatched at the blocks as the boat rocked. The sail was ghostly white. The vision of a mermaid would not have surprised me greatly. The beautifulest ever was seen, said Peter, with neither shift nor shirt on them, only just themselves and the long hair of them. Straight it was and black, only for a taste of green in it. Once Anthony had seen them, he couldn't rest content without he'd be going to see them again. Many a night he went and saw neither sight nor light of them, for it was only at spring tides that they'd be there, on account of the rocks not being uncovered at any other time. But at the bottom of the low springs they were there right enough, and sometimes they'd be swimming in the sea, and sometimes they'd be sitting on the rocks. It was wonderful, the songs they'd sing. Like the sound of the sea set to music was what my mother told me, and she was told by them that knew. The people did be wondering what had come over Anthony, for he was different like from what he had been, and nobody knew what took him out of his house in the middle of the night at the spring tides. There was a girl that they had laid down for him to marry, and Anthony had no objection to her before he had seen them once, but after he had seen them, he wouldn't look at the girl. George A. Birmingham, The Mermaid. The Birth of Venus by Shelley. Venus, Dion, Aphrodite, Cytherea, the goddess of beauty, love, laughter, and marriage, is by some said to be the daughter of Jupiter and Dione, goddess of moisture. Others report that she sprang from the foam of the sea. Look, look, why shine those floating bubbles with such light divine? They break, and from their mist a lily form rises from out the wave in beauty warm. The wave is by the blue-veined feet scarce pressed. Her silky ringlets float about her breast, veiling its fairy loveliness, while her eye is soft and deep as the blue heaven is high. The beautiful is born, and sea and earth may well revere the hour of that mysterious birth. The ocean nymphs were the first to discover her cradled on a great blue wave, and they carried her down into their coral caves, where they tenderly nursed her and taught her with the utmost care. Then, her education being completed, the sea nymphs judged it time to introduce her to the other gods, and with that purpose in view, carried her up to the surface of the sea, where Tritons, Oceanides, and Nereides all crowded round her, loudly expressing their ardent admiration, and offered her pearls and choice bits of coral from the deep as a tribute to her charms. Then they pillowed her softly on a great wave and entrusted her to the care of Zephyros, the soft south wind, who blew a gentle breath and wafted her to the island of Cyprus. H.A. Gerber, The Myths of Greece and Rome. I don't see so much mermaids there as little cherubim and centaurs and what looks to me like human women and girls. Interesting. Chapter 2, just show you this picture. Silent grottos and coral caves. The Mermaid, verse 1. Who would be a mermaid fair, singing alone, combing her hair under the sea in a golden curl, with a comb of pearl on a throne? Verse 2. I would be a mermaid fair. I would sing to myself the whole of the day. With a comb of pearl I would comb my hair, and still as I combed I would sing and say, who is it loves me? who loves not me? I would comb my hair till my ringlets would fall low adown, low adown. From under my starry sea-bud crown, low adown and around. And I should look like a fountain of gold, springing alone with a shrill inner sound, over the throne in the midst of the hall, till that great sea snake under the sea, from his coiled sleeps in the central deeps, would slowly trail himself sevenfold round the hall where I sate, and look in at the gate with his large, calm eyes for the love of me. And all the mermen under the sea would feel their immortality die in their hearts for the love of me. Alfred Lord Tennyson. She's rather beautiful, isn't she? She looks a bit like Hannah, who comes to the Brooklyn Standard occasionally and dances. She doesn't dance with me the whole night, but she's very lovely and always comes, says hello, and yeah, very lovely woman. Looks a bit like her. Not exactly, but close enough. Made me think of her anyway. It was a splendid sight, such as is never seen on earth. The walls and the ceiling of the great dancing saloon were of thick but transparent glass. Several hundreds of huge shells, pink and grass green, stood on each side in rows, filled with a blue fire which lit up the whole hall and shone through the walls, so that the sea without was quite lit up. One could see all the innumerable fishes, great and small, swimming towards the glass walls. Of some the scales gleamed with purple, while in others they shone like silver and gold. Through the midst of the hall flowed a broad stream, and on this the seamen and sea women danced to their own charming songs. Such beautiful voices the people of the earth have not. The little sea maid sang the most sweetly of all, and the whole court applauded her, and for a moment she felt gay in her heart, for she knew she had the loveliest voice of all in the sea or on the earth. But soon again she thought of the world above her. She could not forget the handsome prince, and her sorrow at not possessing an immortal soul. Then she stole out of her father's palace, and whilst all within was merriment and happiness, she sat in deep sorrow in her little garden. She now heard a horn sound through water, and she thought, that is, no doubt, the prince sailing there above, he for whom all my desires centre, and in whose hands I would trust my life's happiness. Oh, I wish she hadn't. It ended badly for her, people of earth. If only she'd stayed the little mermaid. Just saying. But we can't know these things when we fall in love. We really can't. I will venture everything to gain him and an immortal soul, she said. Whilst my sisters are dancing, I will go to the water witch, of whom I have always been so afraid. But she can perhaps advise and help me. Hans Andersen, which were my forebears as well. The Little Sea Maid. Also known as The Little Mermaid. Right. By Walter de la Mare. Sunk Lyonesse. In sea-cold Lyonesse, when the Sabbath eve shafts down on the roofs, walls, belfries of the founded town, the Nereids pluck their lyres where the green translucency beats, and with motionless eyes at gaze make minstrelsy in the streets. And the ocean water stirs in salt-worn casement and porch, plies the blunt-snouted fish with fire in his skull for torch. And the ringing wires resound, and the unearthly lovely weep. In lament of the music they make in the sullen courts of sleep, whose marble flowers bloom for aye, and, lapped by the moon-guiled tide, mock their carver with heart of stone, caged in his stone-ribbed side. And here we have what looks like Poseidon and his attendants. I'm very fond of Poseidon or Neptune. I met him once crossing the equator on the Fair Star. True story. Not the real Poseidon, but when you're a child, you can allow yourself to believe it's the real thing, can't you? The joys of childhood. In the deep caverns of the sea there dwelt a sea king who had a mortal woman for his wife. He loved her dearly and devotedly, and she loved him in return. And for a long while they lived happily together in their palace under the sea with their children, who were all little mermen and mermaidens. The caverns of the sea palace were cool and beautiful, ceilinged with amber, paved with pearl, and filled with soft, dim lights. Outside the cavern doors, the many-coloured seaweeds waved to and fro with the tide, and under their shadow the little mermen and mermaidens played with the sea beasts and the fishes, and watched the sea snakes coil and twine, and the great whales go sailing by on their journey around the world. Christine Chandler, the forsaken merman. This looks like it's been done as a mosaic, which is very, very pretty indeed. Very pretty. By William Shakespeare from The Tempest. My daughter acted in that once. Fabulous she was. Oh, well. Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made, those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Sea nymphs hourly ring his knell, ding dong, hark, now I hear them, ding dong, bell. Chapter 3. The wild notes swell. Oh, here's a close-up of that portrait I showed you before of the women and the cherubs and merman. Some of them are definitely merman. There's a fish's tail attached to that one. But, sweet. And there's this one. A Sea Spell by D.G. Rossetti. Her lute hangs shadowed in the apple tree, while flashing fingers weave the sweet strung spell between its chords, and as the wild notes swell, the seabird for those branches leaves the sea. But to what sound her listening ear stoops she? What netherworld gulf whispers doth she hear? In answering echoes from what planisphere? Along the wind, along the estuary? She sinks into her spell, and when, full soon, her lips move, and she soars into her song, what creatures of the midmost main shall throng in furrowed surf clouds to the summoning rune, till he, the fated mariner, hears her cry, and up her rock bare-breasted comes to die. Here she is, playing her beautiful music. And here's a man enchanted by a mermaid coming out of a pool in someone's courtyard. A resident mermaid. Wonder how she came to be there. Must be like a well that leads to some river somewhere, and she's swum upwards like the effluent floating to sacred space. Well, it can just feck and float on by for all I care. Rotten it is. Rotten. Never mind. By Jeannie Lang, The Quest for Sir Guyon. Guyon and the Mermaids. They came then to a peaceful bay that lay in the shadow of a great grey hill, and from it came the sweetest music that Guyon had ever heard. 5 beautiful mermaids were swimming in the clear green water, and the melody of their song made Guyon long to stop and listen. They had made the song about Guyon. O thou fair sun, of gentle fairy. Thou art in mighty arms most magnified, above all knights that ever battle tried. Oh, turn thy rudder hitherward awhile, here may thy storm-bet vessel safely ride. This is the port of rest from troublous toil, the world's sweet inn from pain and wearisome turmoil. The rolling sea gently echoed their music, and the breaking waves kept time with their voices. The very wind seemed to blend with the melody and make it so beautiful that Guion longed and longed to go with them to their peaceful bay under the grey hill. But the palmer would not let him stop, and the boatman rowed onwards. And here we have the lovely watery temptresses themselves. The Sirens by William Morris, The Life and Death of Jason. Come to the land where none grows old, and none is rash or overbold, nor any noise there is, or war, or rumour from wild lands afar, or plagues, or birth and death of kings. No vain desire of unknown things shall vex you there, nor hope or fear of that which never draweth near. But in that lovely land and still ye may remember what ye will, and what ye will forget for aye. So while the kingdoms pass away, ye sea-bat hardened toilers, erst unresting for vain fame athirst, shall be at peace for evermore, with hearts fulfilled of God-like lore, and calm unwavering God-like love. No lapse of time can turn or move there. Ages after your fair fleece is clean forgotten, yea, and Greece is no more counted glorious. Alone with us, alone with us, alone with us. Dwell happily beneath our trembling roof of sea. Gladys Davidson, The Wanderings of Ulysses. The sirens were lovely sea nymphs who, by means of their sweet singing, enticed travellers to draw too near the rocks, so that either their ships were dashed to pieces, or they themselves were filled with such a longing to be with these beautiful maidens that they sprang over the sides of their vessels and were drowned in the raging sea. No one could listen to the magic songs of the sirens without doing themselves some harm. Now, Circe had warned Ulysses about the sirens, and so he prepared for this danger in good time. He closed up his ears of his companions with melted wax, so that they would not be able to hear the magic song. And then, as they drew near to the place of danger, he made them bind him fast with leather cords to the mast of his ship, so that he could not possibly break away, and told them not to set him free until he made signs to them that the sound of the singing could no longer be heard. This clever plan met with great success, for when the ships came in sight of the enchanted island, upon the dangerous rocks of which the sirens sat, combing out their long shining hair, the travellers could not hear the enticing songs they sang, and so had no wish to draw nearer or to throw themselves into the sea. But Ulysses himself passed through awful hours of woe and pain, for as he heard the thrilling songs of the sweet-voiced sirens, he was filled with a terrible longing to fling himself into the sea, that he might reach the lovely enchantresses. But though he struggled furiously to break his leather cords and called out wildly to be set free, his faithful companions obeyed the command he had given them before they reached the enchanted rocks. Unable themselves to hear the thrilling song of the sirens, they paid no heed to the cries of their leader, but rowed hard until the island was lost in the distance. And here we have them coming aboard. And here we have him tied to the mast. Brave Odysseus. Heinrich Heine, translated by Strathia. Lorelei. A sadness its shadow is flinging around me, I know not why, my haunted memory ringing with the lay of the days gone by. The breeze is cool, it grows darkling, and the Rhine doth noiseless run. The mountain summits are sparkling in the rays of the evening sun. High yonder, in wondrous seeming, reclines a maiden fair. Her golden jewels are gleaming, and she combs her golden hair. A comb of gold is she plying, and warbles a wondrous song, that a thrilling melody sighing floats like a spell along. The boatman, his bark while steering, is seized with a wild amaze. He heeds not the rocks that are nearing, fixed high in his spell-bound gaze. And soon by the waters swallowed will bark and boatman lie, such fatal charm weaves ever the song of the Lorelei. I like that one. That's beautiful. Pity they don't actually show who the artists are. Mary de Morgan through the fire. Listen, said the wind fairy, don't you hear someone singing? Jack listened and heard a sad, sweet voice singing a song which was more beautiful than anything he had heard before. That is a mermaid, said the wind fairy, and she is singing to a ship. She will go on singing until the ship follows the sound. Then she will gradually lead it down into a whirlpool, and there it will be swallowed up, and the poor sailors will never return to their wives and little children. But I will go and blow the ship in another direction, whether it likes or no, until it is out of the sound of her song, and then it will go on all right. Men little think, when they complain of meeting gales of wind, that it is often for their own good, and that we are blowing them away from danger, not into it. A mermaid, cried Jack. I have never seen one. How much I would like to see her. When we have gone to the ship, we will go and look at her, said the wind fairy. Then he flew to one side till they came to a ship full of sailors sailing quietly along, and the wind fairy began to blow with all his might. He blew till the sea rose in great heavy waves. The ship leaned over on one side. The captain shouted. The sailors threw up the ropes and all trembled from fear. But, much against their will, the ship had to be turned about and go in another direction, and the wind fairy never left off blowing till she was many miles away from the sound of the mermaid's song. Now we will go and look at the mermaid, said he, and back they flew again to the same spot. There beneath them, resting on top of the waves, Jack saw a very beautiful maiden. She had sad green eyes and long green hair. When he looked closer, he saw that she had a long, bright tail instead of legs, but he thought her very beautiful all the same. She was still singing in a sad, sleepy voice, and excuse me, as he listened, he began to long to jump into the sea beside her, and the longing grew so strong that he would have thrown himself into her arms at once, had not the wind fairy seized him and seized him and flown off with him before he had time. Right. Since once I sat upon a promontory and heard a maiden on a dolphin's back uttering such dulcet and harmonious breath, that the rude sea grew civil at her song, and certain stars shot madly from their spheres to hear the mermaids' music. William Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream. I like that one too, but that's because I'm a romantic. But shh, don't tell anyone. Seriously, they must never know. Chapter 4. Go up, dear heart, through the waves. It's not good, is it? Pages sticking together. Matthew Arnold from The New Sirens. Who are they, O pensive graces, for I dreamed they wore your forms, who on shores and sea-washed places scoop the shelves and fret the storms, who, when ships are that way tending, troop across the flushing sands to all reefs and narrows wending, with blown tresses and with beckoning hands. My hands are very sore this week. I don't know why they're so sore, but they're very, very sore. Probably the cold weather and all my hard work making that cuff, which I wore today, proudly and happily. Nobody commented on it, of course, because why would they? But I looked down at it a few times when I was starting to decompensate, trying to sort out my iPhone problems. Oh, dear goddess. Anyway, John Keats from On the Sea. O ye who have your eyeballs vexed and tired, feast them upon the wideness of the sea. O ye whose ears are dinned with uproar rude, or fed too much with cloying melody, sit ye near some old cavern's mouth and brood until you start, as if the sea nymphs quired. Looks like something by Gustav Klimt. I'm very fond of Klimt. I love how he uses gold embellishments on everything. I like to do that too. Why not? Possums. Sailor's Song by Thomas Lovell Beddoes. To sea, the calm is o'er, the wanton water leaps in sport, and rattles down the pebbly shore. The dolphin wheels, the sea cows snort, and unseen mermaids' pearly song comes bubbling up the weeds among. Fling broad the sail, dip deep the oar. To sea, the calm is o'er. To sea, our wide-winged bark shall billowy cleave its sunny way, and with its shadow, fleet and dark, break the caved Triton's azure day. Like mighty eagle soaring light, or antelopes on alpine height, the anchor heaves, the ship swings free, the sails swell full. To sea, to sea. Andrew Lang, The Mermaid and the Boy. The vessel had not gone very far when she ran upon a rock and stuck so fast in a cleft that the strength of the whole crew could not get her off again. To make matters worse, the wind was rising too, and it was quite plain that in a few hours the ship would be dashed to pieces and everyone would be drowned, when suddenly the form of a mermaid was seen dancing on the waves which threatened every moment to overwhelm them. "There is only one way to free yourselves," she said to the king, bobbing up and down in the water as she spoke, "and that is to give me your solemn word that you will deliver to me the first child that is born to you." The king hesitated at this proposal. He hoped that some day he might have children in his home, and the thought that he must yield up the heir to his crown was very bitter to him. But just then a huge wave broke with great force on the ship's side, and his men fell on their knees and entreated him to save them. So he promised, and this time a wave lifted the vessel clean off the rocks, and she was in the open sea once more. Mermaids, Vesper Hymn by George Darley. Troop home to silent grots and caves, troop home, and mimic as you go the mournful winding of the waves, which to their dark abysses flow. At this sweet hour, all things beside in amorous pairs to covert creep, the swans that brush the evening tide homeward in snowy couples keep. In his green den the murmuring seal close by his sleek companion lies, while singly we to bedward steal, and close in fruitless sleep our eyes. In bowers of love men take their rest, in loveless bowers we sigh alone, with bosom friends are others blessed, but we have none, but we have none. Matthew Arnold from The Forsaken Merman. Come, dear children, come away down, call no more. One last look at the white-walled town and the little grey church on the windy shore, then come down. She will not come though you call all day. Come away, come away. Children dear, was it yesterday? Call yet once that she went away. Once she sate with you and me on a red gold throne in the heart of the sea, and the youngest sate on her knee. She combed its bright hair and she tended it well, when down swung the sound of a far-off bell. She sighed, she looked up through the clear green sea. She said, I must go, for my kinfolk pray in the little grey church on the shore today. 'Twill be Easter time in the world, ah me, and I lose my poor soul, Merman, here with thee. I said, go up, dear heart, through the waves, say thy prayer, and come back to the kind sea caves. She smiled, she went up through the surf in the bay. Children dear, was it yesterday? The Ballad of the Boat by Dr. Richard Garnett. But first, let's feast upon the art. There's a little picture there as well. The stream was smooth as glass, we said, arise and let's away. The siren sang beside the boat that in the rushes lay, and spread the sail and strong the oar, we gaily took our way. When shall the sandy bar be crossed? When shall we find the bay? The broadening flood swells slowly out o'er cattle-dotted plains. The stream is strong and turbulent, and dark with heavy rains. The labourer looks up to see our shallop speed away. When shall the sandy bar be crossed? When shall we find the bay? Now are the clouds like fiery shrouds, the sun superbly large. Slow as an oak to woodman's stroke, sinks flaming at their marge. The waves are bright with mirrored light as jacinths on our way. When shall the sandy bar be crossed? When shall we find the bay? The moon is high up in the sky, and now no more we see the spreading rivers either bank and surging distantly. Their booms a sullen thunder as of breakers far away. Now shall the sandy bar be crossed, now shall we find the bay. The seagull shrieks high overhead, and dimly to our sight the moonlit crests of foaming waves gleam, towering through the night. We'll steal upon the mermaid soon and start her from her lay, when once the sandy bar is crossed and we are in the bay. What rises white and awful as a shroud enfolded ghost? What roar of rampant tumult bursts in clangour on the coast? Pull back, the raging flood sweeps every oar away. O stream, is this thy bar of sand? O boat, is this the bay? Anonymous. Oh, 'twas in the broad Atlantic. Oh, 'twas in the broad Atlantic, mid the equinoctial gales, that the young fellow fell overboard among the sharks and whales, and down he went like a streak of light, so quickly down went he, until he came to a mermaid at the bottom of the deep blue sea, singing, "Rule Britannia, Britannia, rule the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be married to a mermaid at the bottom of the deep blue sea." No, because they'll be drowned in it instead. I like that one. He looks like he comes from somewhere in Arabia, and she looks like a very cheeky little mermaid indeed, with her red hair flying in the breeze. A mermaid found a swimming lad, picked him for her own, pressed her body to his body, laughing and plunging down, forgot in cruel happiness that even lovers drown. W.B. Yeats, The Mermaid. As I said, I don't think they always mean to be, cause calumny and drowning and misery. They just simply forget. Right, that was the last of the little poems and stories. And here we have all the mention of all the artists, of all the little paintings, but I'm not going to bother reading them to you because we won't remember which pages were which, and I'm not going over it. I've shown them to you. Enough already. Enough. And also, I'm a bit tired. Jacket printed in Singapore. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that, people of Earth. We've been down to the sea and back again, and none of us got drowned and sucked in by the siren song. We can thank the goddess for that, says she, who nearly drowned 3 times as a child. And didn't see any mermaids then either. But however, one of the drownings, the near drownings, was a bit miraculous, because I was looking up at sunlight and my own breath turning into bubbles, peacefully awaiting the end. When Lynn Robertson grabbed me by my hair and yanked me up and asked me what I was playing at. I wasn't playing at all. It was feckin' drowning. But never mind. It's all good, people of Earth. We're still here on Earth, 60 years old, with my sleep apnea and my battles with technology, which I will be fighting again tomorrow, but it'll get resolved. It was a lovely young man, kept calling me darling. Was old enough to be my grandson, calling me darling. Normally I'd take umbrage at that, but I decided, what does it matter in the broad scheme of things? Whether a man old enough to be my offspring thinks I'm a darling or not. Maybe today I was a darling. Tomorrow I'll be a mega beast. No, I'll be happy tomorrow too. I've been very happy in recent months. Have you noticed? Yes. If it weren't for rivers of shit flowing to me from the neighbourhood and the shit that other people put on me and my own frustrations at healing my body, mind and spirit, and my own creativity causing frustrations at times, I'd be completely serene and everlasting happy, like a gobstopper. Oh, thought I saw a ghost in my neighbour's windows, but it's like 2 streets away. But it's not, it's a reflection of their TV coming off their front windows. Never noticed that before though, but yes, it's definitely their TV. And there's people walking in their front yard, and just saw them walk up. They've always got people visiting them. It's a big family. They're pacing up and down, up and down. Oh well, not my monkey, not my circus. Well, I'm glad it wasn't a ghost. But then I'm not really scared of ghosts, am I? Have you noticed we haven't had any visitations from the dead ex-lover from, 23 years ago? No, it's 25 years ago now. 27 years ago since I met that mofo. Well, there you go. He's gone into the light. Blessed be. And I've gotten happier. You never know. Might even have released some long pent-up bitterness and allow a true love to come into my life one fine day. But I'm too old for that. And I saw the elderly couple in Optus today, and she said, oh, he's a grumpy old man. I just looked at it and I thought, I can't think of anything worse. It's bad enough being single and being grumpy all on your own without two of you mouldering your way through life, being feckless and miserable. No, if I'm going to be miserable, it shall be my own journey and my own pathway to awakening and healing and bliss. I had to make new passwords today for practically everything, which was crazy making. I won't tell you what they are because they're passwords. But one of them was very, very comical indeed. I thought, oh yes, Tanya, you're so creative when life gets shitty and you don't cope. Get funnier and funnier and funnier as you gradually unravel. Well, you have to laugh. Anyway, so wherever you are in the space-time continuum, choose life, choose joy, choose each other, and yes, be good and kind and honouring and respectful, and communicate and let go of things that need to be let go of, and hold close to things that need to be cherished and adored and valued and cared for. What does my shaman friend Michelle Citrine call it? Holding on while letting go. Yes, it's a work in progress, people of Earth. But anyway, Good evening. Blessed be.